little check boxes. Hi everyone! Welcome back, or welcome to, whichever one you are. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I just want to say first a huge thank you all. Yesterday I hit 100 subscribers and I'm so excited. I just appreciate all the support from everyone, and I couldn't be more excited that I have just a huge community of people backing me and are excited that I'm doing this. So thank you. I could not be more grateful for all of you. With that being said, I thought that since the applications for the spring 2018 applications will be going out soon, I thought I would do some videos on my application process and hopefully videos that are helpful to you all who will be applying for the program soon in August-ish, whenever they decide to open. And these were the videos that I watched hours upon hours of, just because I had no idea what to expect. And so I wanted to make these videos just to help people out there who feel like they're in the dark about the application process. They don't know what they're doing. They just want as much information as possible as they can find to help them with the whole application. And so that's why I'm making these videos. Please feel free to comment me with any other questions that you have that I don't answer, and I'll be sure to respond and get back to you in any way that I can. So yes, I'm excited. I hope these are informative, and I hope you guys really enjoy them. I'm going to try and include as much detail as possible as far as, you know, things that I haven't seen in a ton of other videos that I was really nervous about. And so hopefully these videos find someone and are helpful to somebody. But first of all, I want to say, before I really jump into things, Disney has the ability and, you know, the power to change the application process and make it look like whatever they want it to from season to season. And so what I'm describing, I'm talking about my experience. These are all things that have the potential to change for the next application seasons. So if I say something that isn't exactly the way that you experience in these upcoming seasons, it's because Disney has changed things up a little bit. It's a different process. That happened to me in my season. They had done things differently than the seasons before mine, and so it's a constant thing that's changing. It's moving all the time, so just be aware of that, and that it might not look exactly the same, but I'm going to give you as much information as I can, just in hopes of being helpful to somebody. Okay, so my first video, I'm going to do the application itself that you submit to Disney, and then I'm going to talk about the web-based interview, or the WBI, which is what a lot of people call it. And like I've said in another video before, I applied for the program twice. I applied once my sophomore year of college, and then obviously this time, and was accepted. So the first time that I applied for the program, I literally had no idea that it was such a kind of mass thing as it was. I knew it was a huge program, but I don't think I really understood what it was. I had no idea that people put videos on YouTube up about it. I had no idea that there were so many people who were trying to be helpful and, you know, get the information out there. And so I was really just winging it. Like, I had zero idea. And so I'll be able to speak a little bit about things that I did differently as far as, you know, the first time I applied to the second time I applied. I don't think it's going to be a huge difference because it was the WBI that ended my process in the first time. But I'll try to be specific about the application itself, because I know that's what a lot of people are worried about. So the application that you submit for Disney, they drop on a random day, which is terrifying. You go through the whole process of applying. And because I wasn't planning, or because I wasn't really thinking through vlogging my program and thinking through it based on what you guys would be seeing and experiencing as well, I don't have a ton of details about the actual application that I remember, just because I was in such a fit of like trying to get it finished and being so excited that I don't remember everything that was on there. But I'll talk to what I do remember, and hopefully that will still be helpful. So the application itself is going to be a lot of personal information, you know, things like obviously your name, your address. I'm not sure if they make you submit your social security number yet, but things like that. So when you're applying, just make sure you know all of that information and just the general things that you would need to put in any application. Make sure you know that when you're applying so that you can apply, you know, as soon as possible. The next thing that is going to be a big deal for your application is listing work experience and just kind of, you know, past volunteer experience, things like that. So essentially you're submitting a resume, but it's on the physical application that Disney puts out. So they have this whole kind of series of drop down boxes and like little segmented areas where you put the company name, and then it'll be like a column next to it that says, you know, role description. The next thing will be like describe or role title or something like that, and the next box will be like describe your responsibilities in this role. It's that kind of thing. And so you're submitting your resume and your past work experience, but it's on an application that like is already kind of a document within the online application that you're filling out, if that makes any sense. My biggest piece of advice for this is use Disney friendly words. So instead of saying customer, say guest. Or instead of saying, if you worked at a theme park, instead of saying on my ride that I worked, say attraction. Things that really appeal to the Disney eye. Because as far as we know, and this could totally be wrong, but this is kind of the expectation of the people applying for the program, it seems as though there is some sort of system, computer program, something that kind of scans your application, and that is what determines whether or not your application goes through. It happens immediately, so it can't be, you know, people sitting down at a computer and being like, oh yeah, this sounds really good. So it seems as though it's all computer generated, which was terrifying to me. I hated that. I hated that the first half of the application was all based on a computer. Most of it was automatic, not even looked at by a person yet. That really freaked me out, and so that's the parts that I was really stressed about. So I think the more Disney friendly words you can put into your application, that computer program, if that's what it is, that's kind of what we assume, but I mean, we have no way of actually knowing. But it's going to pick up on those key words that are going to make your application stand out. And so I had a lot of that in my application, just guest, attractions, efficiency, things like that that sound Disney friendly, and that I think will be really helpful to making your application stand out from other people. There will be a section where you do your ranking for your roles that you would like to do. And so this was a part that I think looked differently from the semesters before us that applied this season. There was a process, I think I'm remembering this correctly. I know it's something like this, but if it's not the exact right details, then whatever. But this is what it will be similar to. I think we had a list of all the roles that were available and like little check boxes next to them. And when you checked a box, so let's say I wanted to work quick service food and beverage, attractions, and photo pass. Let's say those were the 3 roles that I wanted to apply for. I'll say literally put a check next to everything unless you're absolutely not willing to work on it. But I pretty much was like, put me anywhere, I just want to be there. Well, let's say those were the 3 boxes that I checked. I highly recommend checking more than that, but this is just an example. So if I put a check next to attractions, then there would be a separate box that popped up in the bottom of that little section, and then there would be a drop down box that you ranked your interest in that role. So it would be like low interest, moderate interest, or high interest. The first time I applied, it was different, where you had to rank your interest on every role. So you would if you didn't want to work Bippity Boppity Boutique, you're like, I don't know how to do makeup, I'm not doing that one. You would click Bippity Boppity Boutique, there would be a drop down box, and you would rank no interest. It was different this time. So that's how it was the first time, but this time it was that kind of, you checked a box and then a separate kind of window would pop up, and that would tell you if you had a low, moderate, or high interest. So that's kind of what that looks like. And I really do recommend checking a lot of things, but don't check things that you're not willing to do if you really aren't willing to do something. With that being said, Disney still can place you in that role. Just because you put no interest in something does not mean that you are, you know, an exception and that you can't get that role. They'll pretty much place you wherever. I do think they take into account a little bit your, you know, interests, but I think Disney assumes that you would rather be on the program with a job that wasn't your top interest rather than not being accepted into the program at all. So I do think that they will put you in a lower interest position before they would not give you an acceptance at all. That's just my assumption, but I don't know, I could be wrong, but that's kind of been my experience with it. The application is relatively self-explanatory, and if not, if you have questions, you can post on the Facebook page or just ask people who have applied, and they'll be able to explain things to you in a way that's probably more specific to your question. On the work experience, there is a big up in the air question that's, do you write out your work experience in full sentences or do you put bullets? That seems to be a big question within, you know, the application process, and I've seen it work both ways. I've seen people getting accepted who've said they wrote in full sentences. I've seen people getting accepted like I did with the bullet points. So I really don't think it matters that much. I think it's just going to be keywords and things like that. Don't get caught up in those little details. I know it's scary, but I don't think that they are a make or break situation for you in your application. For some reason, there is a part on the application right before you submit it finally, and you can kind of go back to your application, like save it, go back and finish it later. I just did it in all one sitting because I didn't want to wait. I applied the night they opened, like I was ready. But there's a section right before you submit the application that has a spot that's available to submit a resume. And I thought that was really weird because you essentially, not even essentially, you have already turned in all your work information and past work experience on the application itself physically. And so I thought it was weird that they offered a spot to also submit a resume. And I wasn't planning on doing it originally because I was like, ugh, I don't want to make up a resume. That's just another thing that I have to do before I can submit the application. I was just in a rush. I wanted to get it done. But I kind of talked myself out of that and was like, okay, Sarah Beth, just take your time, make a resume and submit it, because I didn't want anything even remotely being a possibility of me not getting in. So I knew that if like my application didn't go through and I hadn't submitted a resume, I know that in my head I would have thought that that was the reason. And so I was like, you know what, I'm just submitting it. And so I do recommend submitting a resume. You don't have to. I have seen people that have not submitted a resume in that little like section that you can. I've seen people get in that haven't done that. And so I know that it would be really helpful to have like an actual specific resume that you can see. And so if I can, I will put it in the video at some point. Maybe I can just like show it on like an extra screen or something. So if I can do that, I'm going to. So if I can do that, boom, here it is. Hopefully I can be able for you all to see that. I literally just went in Pages on my Mac and made a resume. It was nothing fancy. It was white paper with black writing, which kind of bothered me because I'm an art major, and so I've like made up, you know, graphic design types of resumes, and so it really killed me to be submitting, you know, a white page with black writing. But I didn't think it was going to be a huge deal to have it look nice and fancy, and so I'll show you all a picture of what I did submit, and so you all can kind of get an idea of how to set yours up if you'd like, and at least one that did go through. It's not guaranteed to go through if you make it look like mine, and obviously you'll have different work experience, different information, things like that. But I thought it would be helpful for you all to actually see a physical resume that was submitted for the Disney College program and was accepted. So after you submit your application, you will immediately see on your dashboard, well, not always absolutely immediately, it will be like within a couple minutes, you will see one of three things on your dashboard. You'll see an in progress, an in submission, or no longer in consideration. And these are the three options that you can kind of be put into, the three categories based on your application alone. I didn't know this was a thing the first time I applied and I went directly into progress. I just thought that was a normal thing that happened to everybody. But that's not the case. In progress is what you want. In progress is like a, yes, we looked at your application, it's good, and we will be giving you a web-based interview. So soon after you go in progress, you will get an email. It doesn't have to be like that night. Some people panicked about getting a web-based interview on time, or like the emails and things like that. Some of them are just more delayed. But if you get in progress, you do get the WBI. Yay, you did it. If you go into submission, it's essentially like a waiting list. So it means that they're holding your application. They aren't putting you through to the web-based interview yet. You kind of just sit and chill for a long time, and it's miserable. It seems like the seasons before, it seemed like in submission was kind of a automatic you're not in kind of deal. But my season, my application season, they had a huge wave of submission acceptances. So randomly people were just getting pulled out of submission and getting their web-based interviews. And so it might just be different. Sorry, I am getting eaten up by mosquitoes this weekend, and I have so many bites and I'm itching like crazy. Ugh. Okay, I need to chill. It just itches so bad. In submission is not an automatic no. It's not a great thing just because it's scary and you have even more waiting than you would like. But it doesn't mean that you're out of the game right now. They could hold you to submission until literally the last day of being able to be accepted and not letting you go through, which is painful and which is sad and absolutely miserable. But don't lose hope, because people have been pulled out of submission all the time. And then the third option is no longer in consideration. And unfortunately, if you get that right after you submit your application, you will no longer be in consideration for the application. That means you are not accepted that season, and then you can apply the next application season. But that time it's a no-go, you're finished. And they also call that NLIC'd. So if you see a lot of people saying like, oh no, I got NLIC'd, that's what they're talking about. NLIC, no longer in consideration. So that's sad, but there is still opportunities to do it again. Okay, so now I'm gonna talk about the web-based interview, or the WBI. And this was the scariest part for me, and I could not find videos that talked about it. I could find maybe like 1 or 2 videos that mentioned the WBI, but it was nothing really in detail. I had no idea what to expect, and I was just so scared because the web-based interview is what ended my application process the first time. And it drove me insane because I was like, what am I doing wrong? A lot of people get really nervous about the phone interview because, you know, it's a big deal. You're actually talking to a person one-on-one. I was like, let me have a phone interview. Let me talk to a human. At least I can, you know, do everything that I can in my power to, you know, convince them that I would be a great employee to work for Disney World. But just having to click buttons and then it telling me that I was not good enough to work at Disney World, that just crushed me. And so I was so scared of taking the web-based interview again. Honestly, before I took the web-based interview, I crawled up on my bed at school and I just like sat in the fetal position and prayed for like 15 minutes because I was just so scared of it. Because it's just so nerve-wracking. It's so nerve-wracking because it's just all automated, computerized. There's no personal interaction. Ugh, I hated it. The second time I took it, it really is not bad. It's just confusing. The wording is really odd. It's really, really repetitive. And so you're answering the same questions, but with just different wording of them. And it's just, you have to really look at the question and figure out what it's asking before you can even answer it. And so it's just a lot. So for example, you'll get questions like, so it works on, there's a couple different sections. So some of them are you have a question and then it'll give you a strongly agree to strongly disagree with 2 options in the middle and then a neutral. Okay, sorry it cut me off. Probably because I've been rambling, but whatever. Shoot, I don't even remember what I was talking about. Oh, okay. So yeah, so it'll have the kind of ranking system, but then there's just like several different ways of answering the same questions over and over and over again. So it'll be like, so like the first section will be, you know, the strongly agree, agree, neutral, disagree, strongly disagree. Those, it'll give you like a prompt question and then those kind of answers. Another one will be like, how similar does this sound to you? And it'll give you a prompt like, I'm lazy. And then it'll be like, the most like me, or like the least like me, kind of on the same little ranking scale thing. So it's very basic of any sort of online survey that you've ever had to take that's kind of personality based. It's very similar to anything like that. So it's nothing out of the ordinary, but the questions are just repetitive and confusing. For example, they'll have one prompt that says, I am always on time, and you'll rank strongly agree, strongly disagree, something like that for I'm always on time. And then they'll ask you another question, maybe 10 questions later, I am almost never late. And so then you have to think about, okay, what does that really mean? And how does it relate to the question that I answered earlier? And so I think they kind of play with your head a little bit just to ensure that you're really consistent and being truthful with your answers and not, you know, just saying, oh yeah, I'm always on time if you aren't really, and then maybe forget that you said that 10 questions later. So just be very, very careful in reading the questions and understanding what they mean. My biggest advice for the web-based interview is be consistent. So really take note of the questions that they are asking you, process them, and remember what you said, because it will come in later in a different form and you'll have to essentially say the exact same thing, like, yes, I'm always on time, but it will be answering a question, I am almost never late. So it's just, the wording is really weird. Take your time and think about the questions. They say it's timed. I think they do that to really freak you out. Okay, I don't think Disney's intentionally trying to freak you out. It just, that's the way it works, and it's scary because it's such a big deal to us. No shade to Disney, I promise. You have time. It seems like you're in a huge rush and you need to get it finished, but you have time to answer the questions. You have time to look at the questions, understand what they're saying, and really make an educated decision based on that. So breathe, take your time, it will be okay. My second piece of advice is I don't want to say only, but using majority of the strongly agree or strongly disagree answers. I think that's something that Disney looks for, where you're confident in what you're doing, you know yourself, you know how you are as a worker. I think that's what they're looking for. I don't think they're looking for a bunch of neutrals and I'm not really sures and yeah, maybes. I think they're looking for yes, absolutely, or no, absolutely not. And so I'm not going to tell you that you use only those options, but use a lot of those options. I think this is the biggest difference that made my web-based interview go through this time compared to when I applied when I was a sophomore in college. When I was a sophomore, I was like, well, I don't want to sound like I'm making myself seem perfect and like, yes, I'm always on time. Yes, I have a positive attitude. Yes, 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 I'm an awesome worker and I don't do anything wrong. I think I was scared of looking like that, and so I was like, you know what? I'm not always on time. Like, what happens if I, get stuck behind a train somewhere and then I'm late to work? Like, what about that? I don't want to say that I'm always on time if that happens. So I would put like, agree. Yeah, I'm always on time most of the time. And I think it just looks a bit more wishy-washy. The way I kind of justify this is you're not lying. I mean, I guess you could be lying, but be true to yourself. But understand that it is an interview. It's a web-based interview, but it is an interview. So if you were sitting down in front of an employer, just face to face, and they said, are you always on time? I would not say, I mean, yeah, for the most part, I'm on time. There's always that random thing that pops up and makes me late, but yeah, for the most part, I'm on time. You would never say that to a potential employer. If they ask you if you're always on time, yes, absolutely, I have really great time management. I think that, being prompt is really important, and so I'll always be on time 100%. Like, of course, they're gonna take into consideration that, things happen in the world, and there may be one day that you have to be late, but sell yourself to the point that you're being true to who you are, but giving the best version of yourself out there. So those are my two huge pieces of advice for the web-based interview. Just being consistent and being confident. So strongly agree, strongly disagree. I think those are two things that I didn't do the first time and that I really do think helped me the second time, because I was a bit more consistent and strongly opinionated in those senses. So after you finish your web-based interview, you will get one of two emails. Not even emails. It like shoots you to another window in your browser, and it will go to, congratulations, based on your results, we think that you deserve to move on in the application process. You'll get an email about your phone interview soon, and that's kind of that deal. And then you will get an email about scheduling your phone interview. So yay if you did that, because that is so awesome. That was the best feeling in the world. I'll submit I'll insert a video, a little boomerang of me once I figured out I got my phone interview. I like made my friends like freak out with me in the hallway. So if that happens, hooray, congratulations. It's the best feeling ever. Unfortunately, like me the first time, when you finish your web-based interview, there is the possibility to be taken to another browser or the other window in the browser, and it says, based on your results, it does not look like you'll be moving on in the application process. You are no longer in consideration for this program, and you cannot apply for the next 6 months. So if you get a no from the web-based interview, you cannot apply again for that season. You have to wait for the next season. And that just stinks. It's not a fun feeling at all. And I'm sorry if that happens to you, but it happened to me, it's happened to many other people, and now I have been accepted for the program because I did get through the WBI, and I promise that you will too. So that's my video for the application and the web-based interview. I know I don't have a ton of detail just because I wasn't really focused on the details to make videos, because I wasn't planning on doing that at that point. So I'm sorry if I'm missing a few things, but those are important details that I think you need to know and will be incredibly helpful in your program. And I will make another video about the phone interview itself. So thank you all for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful. If you have any other questions, you can definitely comment below or DM me on Instagram. I don't have Twitter, but whatever. So please comment below, DM me. I will get as much information to you as possible and be as helpful as I can. That's why I made this channel. It's because I wanted it to be helpful to people who are applying for the program. So please, please, please ask me questions. Pick my brain in any way that you can. I'm excited for you guys. I hope your applications go wonderfully, and I can't wait to hear about you all getting in. So stay tuned for my next video, and see you later. Bye.